even though it feels like we're coming in at the last minute, I think we all need to do something now and act on this sort of situation for our wildlife so that we don't lose any more species.
Hello, I'm Louisa Bonner. I'm a member of the Yagara language people of southeast Queensland. My traditional tribal group is Jagara, and I've done some survey work with Care4esK, or Koalas for S, sorry. And what a fantastic day that was. It had been raining probably days before that, and it was a cloudy day, so it was a little bit muggy and wet all over the place. So, but what a fantastic day to go out and just be reminded of the beauty of the Australian bush environment and the beautiful native animals that exist here, and particularly the koala, which is unique to Australia and is declining in numbers. So it was an honour and it was a pleasure and a privilege to be asked to go out for that day and join our fellow community comrades in looking after and caring for nature in our environment.
Back in 2022, when I had a vision to do this project, we were still a non-incorporated association, so we needed an auspicer for the funding. And that's where Michelle Maloney, the director of AILA, came on board. And then I set about designing a project, and I made some really good contacts with the University of Sunshine Coast, and they helped design it based on their previous works. It is Koala Health and Rehabilitation S Somerset. And that project is received federal funding, and it was basically researching prime areas of koala habitat throughout the Somerset region. We have had community tree planting days in selected areas around the S township where the koala corridors have been broken through urbanisation in this little township or farming. So we've selected areas that we think need to be connected back into form the corridor. And then also part of the rehabilitation was there was a koala corridor that was fairly overgrown with lantana and exotic weeds. So through our budget, we were able to have professional contractors come in and do, I think, 10 days of weed eradication along a creek line, a major corridor here, the Sandy Creek corridor.
So we've planted mostly blue gums, Eucalyptus terraticornis, which are definitely by far the primary food species for koalas in this area. And then we supplement with other eucalypt species that they're known to use for shelter, or, they just eat them seasonally. So we've also got narrow-leaved ironbark, which is the Eucalyptus crabra, and we've got gumtop box, which is Eucalyptus mollicana. The idea here is just to give them more options and more ways to get around, so they're not spending so much time on the ground, which is when they're most vulnerable, going between trees, which can be a bit of an issue in these rural landscapes where trees can be 20 to 50 metres apart sometimes.
We're consulting with the First Nations groups of the area, which is the Djunjibarra people to the west, the Yagara people to the south, and the Yinabara to the northeast.
I think one of the main benefits for this project, for consultation with the First Nations groups, was getting their perspective on what the landscape was like before Europeans arrived. So particularly all these areas around sort of Somerset, open forest to open woodland with a grassy understory. So there's not much in that mid-story as far as shrubs and small trees go. And a lot of that was traditional fire management, culture burning, that sort of thing. So with our plantings, we've gone for quite sort of a bit more of a wide spacing, so they're anywhere from 6 to 10 metres. And that's really conducive to creating that nice open understory where you can have a high diversity of native grasses and native forbs. And we've included them in on the process and incorporated their perspectives on our planning. We had a lot of interest from the community, a lot of non-members from the community participate, and some of them ended up joining the group. And yeah, I think region-wide, this project has definitely helped increase the general awareness, I think, and appreciation for koalas, and I think brought a few people out of the woodwork that maybe were a bit quiet and now are feeling pretty empowered to speak up for the koalas and advocate for their conservation.
One of the highlights for me doing this project was finding koalas over Mount Glen Rock, where we didn't really expect to find too many, especially right up on the top of Mount Glen Rock, where we located in the first surveys, I think 3, including a joey right up the top. So they were all across Mount Glen Rock as well as along the alluvial flats down the bottom near Sandy Creek.
We had a field team from our team, the Detection Dogs for Conservation. We had our drone team that came out to do the drone survey. So that was our drone pilot and a field assistant. So they were out at night conducting the drone surveys. And the following morning, we had a field team that went out with our detection dogs. So we had the detection dog handler, an ecologist, and our detection dog, our wonderful detection dog, Billy, of course, was with us. So we went into the field with Darren from Care4esK. We also had First Nations representatives that were there as cultural heritage advisors while we were on country, which was an incredible experience. The detection dogs are just incredible at what they do. It only takes a moment and Billy is on the scent and she finds it. The surveys were incredibly successful. We identified koala hotspots that really weren't known in this area before. So we surveyed some areas where koala surveys had never been done. We were able to establish some really fantastic baseline data on koala populations in the area. From that perspective, it was incredibly successful. In terms of outputs for the work, we had estimated that we would collect around 50 scats over 2 years. And I believe we ended up collecting over 170. So it far surpassed everybody's expectations.
In 2012, koalas were still classified as vulnerable, and in 10 years they went to endangered. So obviously koalas are in a dire situation, so they need as much help as they can get. As a citizen, I think it's our duty to look after our wildlife. It's just part of my passion in life is to do everything I can for wildlife and their protection and their preservation.